Nat, it's great to have you here on the show. I'm Mark. I own ProgRock.com. This will be
Yeah.
on Music and Widescreen podcast, and it's great to have you here. Thanks so much for spending some time with me today.
Well, that's some time too, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's been, what I like to do a lot of times is I kind of like to ask for the origin story of you, but your background is very well documented on the internet. You were doing a lot of things at an early age, maybe trying to find your what you really enjoyed, whether it be punk or progressive rock, and your website does a great job at talking about that, and your Wikipedia page actually. But is there anything that you'd like to mention about how you kind of got into this that we haven't really heard of or read about?
When you say this, do you mean
like where we are today? We got to this point today because of many things, it seemed like, including a musical box show in, I think, 2003 at Royal Albert Hall, right? That was like one of the many single points in time that really kind of got you here. It's kind of amazing, right?
Yeah, that's a good start, because when I went to see that in Albert Hall to see the Selling England tour. Now, little did I know that I would be standing on the same stage 10 years with Hackett.
Exactly. That is
crazy. So I went to see that. I flew over to see the Albert Hall show in Music Box, and I came back to Sweden. I went onto the Genesis forums, read about it, or maybe post something about it. Well, I just saw this post of another Swede. At the time, I didn't know it was Swedish, but it was just a tribute to Genesis. It was this guy who written a song that sounded almost like a Genesis pastiche. It was an instrumental, and I contacted him, and we started to work together. That became Uniform.
Right.
And Uniform then took another, this was in 2003. The album came out in 2005, so it was like 4 or 5 years in the making.
Right.
The album came out. Roy Stoltz heard it and asked me if I could, do a couple of tracks on his solo record. Then he started pitching more songs my way, and that turned into Agents of Mercy.
Right.
So we went on the road with that in America and Europe and stuff. And then Hackett heard of me through the promoter of the Night of the Prog Festival. That's an annual thing that takes place in Germany.
Right.
And I was recommended Winfried Volklein for Steve. Steve was going to do Genesis Revisited. And so Steve called me, and that's basically, what happened. And that's why I'm here today.
That is a great story. It's fun that a fan of the music was able to kind of come in there and do that with Steve. And Steve, we've had him on the show once or twice, and I don't even have to ask this question, but I mean, he seems to be just a genuinely nice guy. And that it just must be a lot of fun to work with him on this stuff, I assume, right?
I just swiveled.
Yeah.
I just swiveled the whole
time. It worked well.
Yeah, it was not so handy to have it the other way around. I can support the iPad with both my hands, you see.
Yeah, there you go.
No, Steve is a complete sweetheart. It's we clicked right away when I flew over to see him 9 years ago in May.
Right.
He invited me over. I pretty much decided to have me on, but I guess, if you want to commit yourself to another person like that, you want to check him out. You want to meet him in person before you decide.
Right.
But we just clicked. We became, I wouldn't say instant friends, but we were instantly friendly.
Right.
And the friendship grew, of course, over the years.
Right. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, we saw the show when it came to a western suburb of Chicago. Outstanding show. Well worth checking out the recordings of that as well. If there's anybody out there listening that hasn't listened to those revisited albums, just really great. And obviously has been a great thing for your personal career. And you've had a handful of albums come out. The new, let's see, the one that really kind of caught my ear, I'm trying to think now of the one that I really liked. I have to go look at my notes here real quick. No, I'm not prepared apparently.
Well, I can name them. It's Courting the Widow, The Bride Said No, The Regal Bastard, and now it's Spiritus Mundi.
Yeah, the Regal Bastard for some reason really caught my ear, and I'm not quite sure why. To tell you the truth, I like them all, but that one really got me going. And this new one is really outstanding. You must be very, very proud of this new album.
I am, because it came about in a different kind of way than prior to the previous releases. Because it's a co-work with what, number one, we already had the lyrics by Yeats, so that was the lyrics were already done, and so the songs were written around these poems. Usually when I write songs, I start with the music, and then I try to to write lyrics that sound remotely, or a little bit like the hummings I've done, just like bullshit lyrics, really.
The Susu Studio thing, like which never got replaced, right? Just
or the same thing. Peter, I saw a documentary with Gabriel many years ago when he called it Gabrielism, where he was just basically bullshit sounds coming out of his mouth, just to have something to work around when you start writing lyrics. Because when you do that, the vowels are natural; they just come from within you.
I see.
And so that's how you try to write your lyrics, is try to sound similar to what you came out with. So that can be quite daunting. And but this time around, we already had the lyrics, which enabled us to focus solely on the music, and especially me, elaborating on Andrew's ideas, throwing in my own ideas and restructure what was there, because it was just, basically was maybe 30 seconds or 1 minute, sometimes 2 minutes worth of music that he came in with, and I had to stretch it out.
Right.
A good example of that is the second track, Sailing to Byzantium. There was was a very short demo.
Oh, really?
It was just him singing with his guitar, and there was just a lot of things that wasn't there that I had to put in and insert and elaborate on it.
Well, I think that might be my favorite track. It's very tough in early days to really come up with that, but it has a lot of drama in the track. The first two tracks really kind of set the mood for the whole album. I think it's really great. And not to get away from the point of what you're saying about having the lyrics first, I like to follow up on that a little bit. When you have the lyrics first, do you look for, do you say, okay, well, maybe we should do this. We should go from this chord to this chord because we want it to match the feeling of the lyrics. So you have like feelings already that you have lyrics, and you have maybe feelings you want to emote. And so therefore you write the music to help give that feeling in the music, or is it not really work that way?
Well, no, actually, most of the basic chords are Andrew's and his top line, his melody. And then just because it's me who's gonna sing most of it. I mean, Andrew sings a bit on that song as well.
Right.
But what I tend to do is that I will have what do you say, cross chords or chords that can be combined with his strumming. See, he's going very much in just one chord during a whole section, which enables me to come up with it's not cross chords. What are they called? I'm a little bit tired today because I've been working.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm not a musician, so I can't help you, I'm afraid. But
no, but okay, alternative chords that can go on top on his chord.
Okay, right.
If he only plays one single chord, I can go with parallel chords. That was the word I was looking for.
Gotcha.
To create some sort of a
soundscape.
To take it somewhere.
Right.
And that's what I did with Byzantium. All the piano parts, the strings, and everything came from me.
Right. And that's something we should mention. You're not I don't want to say just a singer, because I don't want to put down people that don't actually play an instrument that are great. But you, from an early age, you were playing a lot of piano and guitar, maybe other things, I believe. Is that correct?
I started with piano when I was around 5.
Yeah.
Started to come up with my own music when I was very young, 5, 6, 7, something. I started to do my bits, you know, and in my early teens, I started to, get my head around drums and bass and guitars and what have you.
Mm-hmm.
So I became, early on in my life, I became an arranger, if you like. I had ideas of what should be played or not, and that just grew and grew and grew. In my bands in the 70s and the 80s, I made my own demos with arrangements. So I had that I had a clear vision. I remember mixing my first single with the first band I had in the 70s. My progressive rock band, I did a single, sounded almost like a Genesis pastiche when I was 19.
Yeah.
And I just remember it was time. This was, prior to the days when you had computer mixes, you just had all with you have to be, it was on the fly. Everything was on the fly. So we were like 3 or 4 guys, and I had directions, for all the faders, how they should go and where all the reverb should go and everything. I just knew that.
Right.
So those were my early days of producing. So I always had a clear vision what I wanted with my music.
Right. Well, it's interesting. That kind of reminds me of a story I read about early days, and you kind of had something together. You got on TV a bit, and you never actually got an album together. Is that correct? Which band was that? Is that what? Does that sound accurate?
In a way, it's true. The TV. We 2 of the members of my 80s band, One by One, we actually went on a TV show to support Robbie Neville.
Mm-hmm.
I was in keyboards behind him, and there was the bass player and the drummer. We did that, but that was the band One by One, and
okay.
we were recording an album. We released 2 singles, and then all of a sudden the record company went bankrupt. Something happened.
That's how that happened. Okay.
Yeah, it was right in the midst of recording the album, so it didn't come out, and we were devastated. We also went to support Lionel Richie 2 nights in a row in Sweden with like 12,000 people each night.
Right.
And we hadn't played together in a long time, maybe a year, and we got this gig, and we thought, should we say yes? Should we say no?
Right.
Started to prepare for it and rehearse for it, and in the midst of it all, I got a throat infection, and I basically couldn't sing. Oh, it was horrible. So I thought, well, I've learned that if you drink a little whiskey, the vocal cord will relax. I had too much whiskey.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I was completely pissed out of my skull doing those.
You're relaxed everywhere.
It was a very good school to learn that never drink before a show, which I never do.
Never do. Yeah, it's probably a good idea. Is there, so that actually brings me to a point, is if somebody sees you before a show, what should they maybe avoid talking to you or anything? Because do you save your voice? And is there any good practices for your fans to, what do's and don'ts for before and after a show if they happen to see you at a festival?
I'm very casual with that. No, I speak.
Yeah.
I mean, can talk, and I don't particularly warm up. Because when you're on the road, you sing every day.
Right.
So I never warm. The only warm up I will do with the voice is the sound check. Really, that's when I know. That's where I know where the voice is. The current the what do you say? The shape of the day.
Right.
No, I'm kind of casual. I speak like normal people.
Okay. All right. Very interesting. So as we get back to the album, I kind of went down a tangent there. So how did it come about? What is actually, I don't even know, what's the name of the album, Spiritus Mundi? What does that mean? Maybe I should know that.
Yeah, it's Latin, and it means the spirit of the world.
Oh yes, okay. I guess I did read that.
That's very current, because we're all very concerned of where we're going right now during this pandemic. So I thought it was very, but it is a quote from the first song, Second Coming.
Right.
And it's a line in these things about Spiritus Mundi. The pandemic has been, when it comes to the album, it actually been, it's a paradox, really. It's been it's been beneficial, because since I have not been touring, I've been able to really spend a lot of time, coherent time this time, to come out album, whereas the previous albums I had to write and record in between tours.
Right.
So it would be a bit more scattered, and I would come back to it and continue and then go out on the road and stuff like that. Now I could focus solely on the album, and I think it, in a way, it shows. It's a little bit more coherent, a bit more cohesive. Everything it gels a little different this time. So I think the pandemic, in a way, served a good purpose for this album.
Right. Well, I'm sure that, I mean, I've heard that from a handful of bands, that they're able to have more contiguous time to work on one thing, especially people such as yourself doing multiple things. You're doing things with Steve, and maybe Roina will call with something, and you're doing your solo stuff. So now you had an opportunity to kind of, like laser focus on this project. So I do think it shows it, and maybe it's a combination of the lyrics coming first and the fact that you were able to spend contiguous time with it, that you have, that it seems a bit more cohesive from a listener point of view. It seems all of the same, time. It almost seems like maybe some of the other stuff maybe was left over from maybe something else, and where this all seems like it was written at the same time to me.
Well, it was all done. It was started out in December of 19 when I just got off the road from the Selling England tour that we did.
Right.
And then we went out again in late February 2020. And I thought, okay, and there was going to be a gap between tours later on in the spring. But, I got back in March, and I just continued working on the album. And I did that for the rest of the year, really.
Yeah, well, that's great. I mean, so Nad Sylvan fans can rejoice a little bit in this making lemonade out of lemons type of scenario here. Do you actually plan on any live shows? Do you have anything penciled in that we could tell the fans about?
It's a bit daunting to, I can't say that because we don't know when this pandemic is going to be over. So I can't make any plans, and we had to reschedule all the Hackett shows, time and time again, And I've said that because I promised Steve I'll stay with him as long as he wants me, and it doesn't look like he wants to get rid of me,
Yeah, why would he?
No, I don't think he will. And he's going to do Genesis stuff. He relies on me, and bless him for that. I see that myself going out on the road as a solo artist once Steve decides to maybe slow down a bit. Right. So that creates some space for me to go out on my own, because if he keeps me busy like 5-6 months per year, I need to recharge my batteries as well and need some time off, and also music. So it's a bit paradoxical, the whole situation for me. If I hadn't Steve, I could be completely committed to my solo career. But then again, I think Steve would understand if I would have to say, okay, I need to take a break from you for a while because this is going too well. I need to go out and promote my album.
Right.
If we were talking about that level of success that I haven't experienced so far with my solo career, I'd have to reconsider my situation, I'm sure, and he would understand, being a solo artist himself.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, there's not going to be any animosity, and he's going to be happy for you, for sure.
He is happy for me that it's going well.
Yeah, and let me ask you this: is this a possibility, or is this just too much on you? Could you open for Hackett? Is that even a possibility?
Well, I'd be up for it, but you need to ask Steve that.
Okay, I was just curious. I wasn't sure if it was something you would now you're talking about 3 hours of singing. Might have to play an instrumental or two, get you off the stage once in a while if you did that.
Well, of course I can see it as a double bill thing, but it's kind of it's a daunting thing to do, to say, hey, Steve, can I open up for you? It just wouldn't work that way. The British way is that typical British way is that you should be asked, So
for sure.
That's the way they asked me to join Steve's band, or he asked me to join him. I didn't ask, can I join you?
Right.
So if that would be a thing, it had to come from somewhere else, but not from me.
For sure. I wasn't asking or saying, inviting you to ask him. I was just saying, is it even something you'd be able to do? I just know that some singers just, they probably want to do the show and that would be it. And certainly, like if you were, let's say Nad Sylvan was going to do a festival and Hackett was going to do a festival, you'd be performing on Saturday and he'd be performing on Sunday or vice versa, you know, just to give you a break.
That I mean, it could be a possibility, you know, if you're talking about festivals and stuff.
Right.
We haven't really discussed any of that within the Hackett band, whether we, you know, we should do some Sylvan songs.
Yeah.
And you know, you have to stay so humble within this entourage. You know,
Sure.
your play stuff. It's
Right.
Steve's. How many times I've been told it's Steve's show. You know, don't overdo it. It's Steve's show. You shouldn't be standing there. You should, you know, it's stuff like that. I've heard it many times.
Oh yeah.
You know, you have to pay respect for the man, and so these days it's all good. Of course, I've learned my place and all of that. But as long as it says Steve Hackett, it is Steve Hackett.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I don't mean to get we're here to promote the album. I don't mean to get on that stuff. And you know, here's the thing. I mean, the album just seems just for my money is like it just doesn't have any low point. It's just all great. It's very melodic. Who would you say? Let's say somebody's never heard of Nad Sylvan before. Who would you say this is for fans of who? Who should I give this album to if they've never heard of you before? What fans of what band or artist?
Well, I guess you don't have the physical copy. You've only heard the files, right? You've been
I got right, because the physical copies.
And the liner notes, it says, I jokingly call this my Cat Stevens album. Because
you know, I can't believe you said that because, you know, there's a handful of lines in there that sound a little bit like Cat Stevens, you know, your vocals. And I think you engage your vocal cords in the same way as he does sometimes, not all the time.
Long before I joined Steve, and back in, you know, maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago, I would hear sometimes, oh, your voice is a bit reminiscent to Cat Stevens. And and I was never really a big Cat Stevens fan. In fact, my first encounter with Cat Stevens was back in '74, and I hated him.
Yeah.
At the time, Can't Keep It In was a big hit by him. And I thought, I can't keep, you know, what a stupid song, you know. So I didn't really like it first. But it's just my voice is there along with, you know,
the timbre.
There's like a family of voices with Peter Gabriel, Phil Collins, Cat Stevens, Gary Brooker, Steve Winwood. You know, I'm in that sort of, you know what I mean? I'm in that mold of voices.
Can you quantify what is similar about all those voices?
It's the register, and
okay.
Sometimes it's just the way the expressions. I guess a lot of these people have been listening to the same kind of music. We've all been listening to a lot of soul music.
Right.
Black singers, you know, Ray Charles and people like that. We admire great singers. I cannot listen to an album that doesn't have a great singer.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
I was just having a conversation about that, about how I even struggle with instrumentals that I like.
I don't enjoy music that doesn't have a great singer.
Yeah.
It is, you know, that's what I draw from, great singers.
Do you have any favorite singers that you'd like to mention?
At the moment, I'm listening very much to Rufus Wainwright.
Oh, okay.
He just came out with an album called Unfollow the Rules. And it doesn't sound, we don't have the same kind of voices at all.
Right.
But it's a beautiful singer, and his music is wonderful. Another great singer comes to mind is Gino Vanelli, Al Jarreau, or the Elton John, especially early John.
Yeah.
Just, you know, something really original about it that I like.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting about the Jim Croce thing, because here's the thing. I was thinking it. I was saying, do I bring it up? Because I don't think he's gonna like that. I don't know if he'll like that comparison or not. So that's very interesting. And I never heard it before this album. I tell this one.
You know, you constantly get compared, and you know, least of all, no, especially me, because let alone me, I was going to say, because of all the, you know, the Gabriel Collins comparison that I constantly get because I sing in Genesis. But I got the gig because there was some authenticity in there, Steve thought. It sounds like you could have been a Genesis singer.
Right.
And it's just because I sing the songs the way in my mind, the way I've heard them, the way I suck them in. This is the way they should be sung.
Right.
And that's why. But as for my own stuff, I hope there's a little bit more of Nad in there than it is anything else.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's iconic. Your voice is iconic. It could be compared to other voices occasionally, but
yes.
I think that as soon as I hear something, whether Hassa is another vocalist that I could recognize very much like your own voice, and I think you should be very proud about this album. Even Hackett picking you. They went a year looking for somebody other than Phil Collins to lead that band. They couldn't find anybody, and they found you. Steve found you. And you're doing something that they couldn't find anybody to do. Right? I mean, Phil was not Plan B. He was like Plan E or F. So yeah. I think that's a great thing, and I'm so personally happy for you and for this stuff. This is your fourth solo album, and the work that you've done with Hackett. I think you kind of got maybe I'm transferring this, but you've got kind of the best of both worlds here. You got to sing Genesis songs. You got to do your own solo thing. So it seems like you're in a good place. That's from my perspective.
From my perspective as well. Yeah. I am in a good place, but it took me a very, very long time to get here,
and that's
a lot of setbacks, a lot of refusals.
Right.
But I endured. I just knew, no, you're wrong, I'm right, and right. I just kept on going.
That's awesome. I mean, you could have shut it down right when as we talked earlier about, you had something, you got a little momentum going. This is amazing. I'm a teenager, maybe 20, and now I'm on TV, and then the label folds, right? And that was the first of probably many setbacks for you, and you persevered, and this is the way it should be done in a lot of ways. It shouldn't. We prefer that.
It all has to do with why you are being an artist. Is some people are not really artistic. They're in it for the money. They want to be rock stars, or they want to be famous. Mm-hmm. It was never about that for me. It was about music is in my DNA. It's like I'm just a medium. I'm just challenging music through my body. Mm-hmm. And I have to. That's my DNA. That's how I express myself. That's my vocabulary is music. And that started when I was so little. So, it's just the way I express myself. And I just got better at it, and eventually I got this gig with Mr. Hackett because I endured.
Right.
If I would never be successful, I would still be writing songs. I would still be singing. I would never give that up.
Yeah, this is who you are, whether or not you're able to do it in front of people or not. This is
yes,
you.
I will still be doing it,
That's great. I mean, I hope that everybody that's watching this is rooting for you and checking out this album. I think it's a great place to leave it. I think it was very insightful, and what I'd like to just say on the end here is, so this is you're on Inside Out. You should be able to get this physically or download it in any country. I don't think there's any problem finding this in America or Europe or any English speaking country.
You can also find it on my website, nadsylvan.com. I do sign things. If you buy records from me, I sign them.
Nice. Okay, so nadsylvan.com. Oh, you can see. Look at what I'm wearing here for you.
Oh my goodness, that brings back memories.